Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, big cuts to Medicaid. Also, a big rally for Tuberville. And the state of Alabama makes a new class of criminals.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
You got hemp? Become a felon. That goes for you too, Granny. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and the man with the tan. Down in Florida this week, Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
How's it going, y'all?
Good. We can again report that Representative Anthony Daniels and his wife are improving.
Mm-hmm.
And another interesting thing that happened this past week, Dane Howard, longtime legislative person over at the Medical Association, she has now been appointed chief executive officer and president, first woman to ever have that position.
Man.
And God knows she deserves
That's
it.
great.
That woman
that's
works
great.
hard,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
Dane is one of the great ones.
Yeah, she
really
is.
She is. Very kind lady.
Yeah. You know, if you look at the political landscape right now, Josh, you would think that we are months away from the elections. In fact, we're almost a year away from the Republican primary and over a year away from the general election. But endorsements are rolling in for Tommy Tuberville from the top of the elites to the biggest business organizations. Everybody is lining up behind Tommy Tuberville, even though there's all this time left where anything can happen in politics in a week. But they're all throwing in their lot. They're all convinced that this is going to be the winner, and maybe it will be. But what's the rush?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation to me. Honestly, I mean, no matter how you feel about Tommy Tuberville, you would think that there would be some people. There have always been people that got in the race and challenged for the. I mean, we're talking about the governor's race. You know, we're not talking about a city council seat here. We're talking about the governor's race. You know, for the state of Alabama. And I mean, Kay Ivey faced challenges. She was a very popular, very, very, very popular governor when she ran for re-election. She faced challenges, from folks. And the idea that no one would line up to take on Tommy Tuberville, that we would all jump to this, and it honestly, I tell you what, it kind of seems to me is it seems like this kind of recipe that Alabama's famous for, where you think one thing is going to happen and it's a sure deadlock, and then boom, something comes along that screws up the whole plan, or just the voters decide, hey, you know what? Luther Strange, we're not going to vote for you. We're going to vote for this one dude over here, and it just kind of screws up the whole plot. But we'll see. I mean, he certainly seems to have it lined up as it is for right now.
As far as cash and endorsements, he is. There might as well not be anybody else in the field. But Susan, this is not how Alabama politics normally works. And the people of Alabama, they normally want a choice. But people are rushing to who they think is going to win.
And I would agree. I mean, it's a little startling, but Alabama does love its dark horses. Really, really does. An interesting thing, though, is that while Tuberville raised $2 million on the first day, he's only raised 1.7 since then. That's maybe a little bit telling in how the fundraising is going, is that it has slowed down a bit. But he's still got $3.7 million in the bank, so that's quite impressive.
If people think you're not going to have a challenger, flashing that,
I mean,
well, he's run out of everybody to give him money. I mean, there's nobody left to give money. And for what?
If you look at it like some of the lieutenant governor candidates, like Wes Allen and Rick paid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're getting small donors. They're getting small donors.
Right.
These big donor
Mm-hmm.
donations are access.
Right.
That's
of
all.
course.
That's what they are. They are. I will have access.
Yeah, the majority of his are major contribution
Right.
reports.
And are primarily for access, which is nothing wrong with that.
No, that's
what
what's set
people
up.
do. But it's just interesting here in Alabama. That has not been the case in the past, but here we're looking at it. Something unprecedented since the 1970s. This past week, the Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, which a lot of people really know is nothing but big and ugly for working people and poor people, no matter how you sell it or who the messenger is. But they backed it, even though a lot of in Congress knew that it was going to hurt their district and hurt people in their district and going to hurt poor people and working people. They passed it anyway, Susan.
Yeah, there's 1.5 million Alabamians that are going to be affected by this in various different ways, from anything from Medicaid to CHIPS, which is going to, that there's over 367,000 people receiving SNAP benefits. I think Katie Britt said 330,000 of those are children.
Yeah.
Which means they're going to go hungry. You've got, the 170,000 Alabamians that are going to lose the ACA credits, which is going to cause them to have problems.
And that's immediate.
That goes into effect immediately.
Relatively immediate.
So and you're talking about Medicaid, SNAP. We're talking about tax cuts. We're talking about not enough money for rural hospitals. It's going to be a catastrophe here.
Now they say they've got a fund, a $500 million fund for hospitals, but that ain't going to go very far. That's smoke and mirrors right there. But Josh, this is primarily a lot of the people who have voted for President Trump and who have certainly voted for these lawmakers. Will it make a difference when they realize that grandma is going to have to come home because she can't stay in the nursing home, or that their child can no longer have health insurance, or that their food stamps are going to be canceled? I mean, what's going to be the reaction from these folks? Are they going to be able to blame Democrats?
Well, I'm certain for a large portion of those people, they are going to figure out a way to blame Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, or illegal immigrants, to some degree for what's going on for them. But this is, I wrote the other day, and I think this is probably the selling point the Democrats could use on this thing here is this is going to cost $3 trillion. Somebody's getting $3 trillion. Yeah. Out of this, okay? So you can run around and say, well, you don't need anything for the government. You want this to happen. You want that to happen and things. But all this $3 trillion is going to somebody, and it's not you. Well, it's not you. You're at worst. At the absolute best for most people, or for most working people, nothing changes in their lives. They get no more breaks. They get nothing to help them with at all. They get nothing out of it.
But it's our money.
And so
this is our money.
But
it's your money.
It's going to increase the debt, the national debt, to 135% of what we bring in.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a big debt hawk or anything, and I believe in spending money when you need to help people and all that. That's fine, that's great. But you should be spending money to help people, and what this is doing is the opposite of that. And most of the breaks, look at every breakdown, every responsible breakdown of this bill. The most of that money goes to the top earners and to the top corporations.
Well, this is reverse Robin Hood. They taken from the poor and given to the rich.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. You're watching The V.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. And what could be called a stunning reversal of fortunes. Michael Stockwell, who has been on death row for 2 decades or more, a federal court, a 3-panel judge on the federal court, voted 2-1 to say that the state violated his civil rights. They violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, because when they did jury selection back in the 90s, when they did voir dire, they struck all the black jurors off this case, and they did it intentionally. Now, the other thing in here is that the jurors voted not for life, they voted for life in prison, not for execution, but the judge, using judicial override, which is no longer legal in Alabama, said, no, we're giving him the death penalty. So, I mean, this is look, I'm not arguing the guy's innocence or guilt or anything else. I'm just saying this is why you can't trust the justice system in Alabama sometimes, because DAs lie, not all of them, some do. Prosecutors lie. We know that Attorney General Marshall lies. I mean, he's a congenital liar. But this is how, and especially if you're a black person or a Hispanic person, or you don't trust the system.
Right. Well, and there's reason for that. I mean, he's supposed to have a jury of his peers, right? Well, this certainly was not, an all-white jury is not a jury of his peers, certainly. And that's not a racial remark, that's just a fact. And the jury voted 7-5 for the death penalty. This wasn't like, only one person voted for him not to have the death penalty. I mean, this was 7 people said, we don't want him to get the death penalty, we want him to get life in prison, which judicial override, as we all know, has been used to manipulate elections and financial gain and all sorts. So this trial was really messed up.
Yeah. I mean, Josh, but if you are a black person or a non-white, let's just put it that way, in Alabama, we still, on occasion, have a different judicial system for whites and blacks.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. I mean, it's read the books, watch the movies. You know what I mean? Honestly, we've got a whole system. We've got a whole group of people, EJI, that have become world famous, primarily fighting against this sort of racial injustice stuff. And the things that people like to shut this out, and they've called they've basically made racism into this word. It doesn't mean anything, and they've used it as a way to push back against people because it's been overused. They claim too much. But read about some of the things that happened, and it actually occurred. Read Brian Stevenson's books. That he's written about his cases and his experience in the state. It's atrocious. It's atrocious what happens. It's atrocious what continues to happen. And this is just another sign of this thing. There are many others out there, that go on like this, and all of them are wrong. And one person imprisoned and especially put to death is way too many. Yeah. All right. And you should work. We should be ashamed that it ever came to this point with this man.
Well, and that's the thing that when people question me about my reversal on the death penalty, is because I got to the point where I saw so much injustice that I could no longer support a system that might murder someone in my name wrongly. I mean, I can't live with that on my conscience.
No, and I feel the same way. I was for the death penalty for years, but the older I got, The more times I saw it reversed on a DNA or reversed on some evidence,
Yeah.
that the thought of putting someone innocent to death just is more than I can handle.
Yeah. Well, I want to move on here because this next part is very, very important. This is Leigh Gwathney. How is that how she pronounces her name? Gwathney. Is
I'm
that
not
it?
sure.
Gwathney.
Leigh Gwathney.
Gwathney. Okay.
Leigh Gwathney.
Leigh Gwathney. Yeah. Anyway, she has run the Alabama Board of Pardons and Parole. She's run that parole board like a fascist. And under her leadership, we have kept more people incarcerated than even the law allows. Their own rules allow. But her term is up. And Steve Marshall, one of the crookedest DAs in this country, is pushing for her, who is his protege, to be reappointed by Governor Ivey. Now, Governor Ivey has a list of candidates that she can support, but she should not support this woman because she's proven herself to be incompetent. She didn't follow the rules. She doesn't do anything that you would expect, Josh, from somebody with such a sensitive position. Let me just make one more point. If you want law and order, you have to have three elements. You have to prosecute, you have to incarcerate, and you have to parole. That's the promises of our judicial system here in the United States of America. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, yeah, right. Well, we call it a correction system, and because there's some the goal is a corrective action that's taking place that takes and punishes people for the wrong that they've done and corrects that behavior and produces productive citizens on the backside of this thing. And she's eliminated the backside of this thing. She's taken away incentives for people to do right in prison. She's made it to where they were essentially worthless for a long period of time there. And in doing so, she violated the Pardons and Parole Board's rules and regulations that they go by, the guidelines that they are to adhere to, and allowing people to apply for pardons and paroles. There are many, many people that she denied parole to. Matter of fact, she was in many cases, she's a singular no vote at this point still for a number of these pardons and paroles, despite the fact that the people that are coming before them have met every standard and have had written recommendations from guards that work with them every single day.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of person that they're talking about reappointing here, and that can't happen in a system that's going to actually work for us.
Susan, you just got about a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's unfair to the prisoners. Second of all, she needs to go visit a prison. Overcrowding is real. It's very, very real. And if we don't let people out, we can't put more people in. So you're going to leave violent criminals out, on the streets while, you're letting people that need to be out stay in prison.
These people can work at McDonald's. They can work as janitors. They can work at that among people all day long. But yet they have to go back to prison at night. And I don't understand why Mrs. Gwathney gets to tuck her children in at night, but will not allow these people who go out and work among us.
Obviously, she has no sympathy or empathy for
Anyway,
anyone.
we're going to have to leave it right there. We'll be back in a minute. You're watching The V.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Montgomery Circuit Court Judge James Anderson refused to put a temporary restraining order on HB 445, the bill that turned ordinary citizens into felons. The HB 445 banned smokable hemp products that have been legal in the state since 2018. Now, this is the cruelest bill I have seen these lawmakers, or one of the coolest bills, ever pass. And I hope somebody loses their seat over this, because I have heard from hundreds and hundreds of people who this is altering their lives in horrible ways and going to send them to the black market, where if they buy a hemp product on the black market, they'll become a felon. But if they just buy regular marijuana, skunk weed, the devil's tongue, then all they're going to get is a misdemeanor. That, Susan, is the world turned upside down, and not a one of our lawmakers seems to give a hoot.
No, they don't. I mean, marijuana has a lot more THC in it than the hemp products. But the hemp products are allowing people to get off opioids. How much have you heard about opioids lately? Because people with PTSD, seizures, multiple sclerosis, multiple dystrophy, Parkinson's, anxiety, they're all getting relief. Chronic pain, they're all getting relief from these products. Well, you say, well, we could do it legally through the medical cannabis, because this legislature passed this, wouldn't even say a hoot about what's going on with the cannabis, the Medical Cannabis Commission in the meantime.
But I've never smoked the stuff. I don't even know what it tastes like. But I do know this, that most people tell me that I have talked to, that the delivery system, Josh, matters. That being able to smoke it does more to alleviate. I know one person, or several, who told me that they had other addictions like alcohol and opioids and things like that, and they were able to kick those things and become and to their words, become a better person.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know a whole lot about that. I don't smoke any of it. I don't take any of the gummies. I don't do any of the stuff. I just happen to be an advocate for people for grown people to be able to live their lives and to take medicines and to take whatever they need to survive and get by with, especially if you're delivering it in a very legal and safe way, which most of these folks were. They were doing it in a very legal and a very safe way. And we're also talking about a plant here. I mean, come on. At the end of the day, this is ridiculous. We got states all over the country here that have legalized marijuana outright for recreational use because it's far safer and far less invasive and far less problematic than the other substances that we allow on our shelves every day, like cigarettes and alcohol. And nobody says a word about that. And for the people to sit around and talk about how this is detrimental to our children, while thousands of them die every day in this country because of alcohol and cigarettes, it's the height of hypocrisy. And what you're doing is you're lining your pockets with the donations from the folks from the alcoholic beverage distributors and producers and things like that. And everybody knows it, and we all see it. I don't fault James Anderson for this. Judge James Anderson, it's not his responsibility to come on the backside of the legislature and do the right thing when they continue to do the wrong things. If you want this to be fixed, elect better damn people.
Well, and no, I'm not being critical of Judge Anderson. I thought they made a fairly weak argument. Their biggest part of their argument was Interstate Commerce Clause. And it turns out, and it's still as confusing as ever, when we legalized hemp products here in 2018, we allowed people to grow it. Yeah, but we went along with it, but we went along with federal. We allow people to grow it. There are farmers who grow hemp, and they sell it through interstate commerce. They grow it here, sell it other places as well as here. But now they can't process it into a smokable product and transport it across Alabama. Because the minute they transform it into a smokable product, then it becomes a felony. This is the thing, the cruel thing, Andy Witt. You turn these people into felons. You drink your alcohol, you do whatever you do, and you don't have to be a felon. You have no heart, sir. Because this dude told me, and other lawmakers told me, that they were only going to regulate it and put age restrictions and make sure that the products were safe. They did not do that.
They didn't do any of that. And the blame also goes to everybody else who joined him in that vote.
Oh, yeah.
This is on you. And viewers, you need to get out and vote. You need to get your folks out that don't vote.
But-
you need to take them to the polls and get these people out of here.
It would not have been possible without Witt.
No, of course not.
Witt wrote the bill. He pushed the bill. He came up with the phony baloney excuses for it. So to me, every arrest, every death, everybody that goes back on alcohol or drugs and all that, that's on you, buddy.
And everybody who goes hungry because they don't have a job, everybody who's losing their business and
Yeah.
all this money that
Yeah.
they're losing that they've invested in a legal
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
entity.
I mean, it's
That's
just
on you, buddy.
It's just ridiculous. But Josh, we elect people like Andy Witt, who pretends to be a nice enough guy, but he's really a jerk because of what he did. But we elect these people, and they keep getting the same sorry folks. Now, until we get better leaders, we can't get better results, right?
No, it's 100% true. And, there is a party out there that still believes in freedom. And that has tried to do good things for working people and tried to do good things for the citizens of the state. You look at every good popular bill that we've had in recent times, and every single one of them has been created by Democrats, been supported by Democrats, have been pushed by Democrats. I mean, it's overtime tax repeal. They fought against this thing. It's nuts, man. But it's been turned into a game. This whole thing has been turned into a game of us versus them, and you put on a jersey and you root for that team. And if that person's not on your team, then you're not gonna pull for them, no matter how much better their ideas and their policies might be for you, which is insanity to me. If a Republican comes to me today and says, "Hey, man, I've got these policy ideas that are really going to aid you and a lot of people like you in your neighborhood. Take a look at this stuff." That person gets my support, and I don't give a damn that he's a Republican. I don't care at all.
And that's what Susan and I have voted for Republicans in a lot of races because they were on the right issues. But now they're on the wrong issues. And it's not about you and your power or you and your religion or you and your emotional instability. It is about the people of the state of Alabama who you have sworn to serve. We're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.